Hello and welcome back to Advanced Conversational English. This is Professor Kent Lee, and I've been having problems with my regular video camera, so I'm recording with Zoom and a webcam, so sorry about the lower quality. It may be like this for a while. Let's talk about our misconceptions unit, and first of all, why are we doing this? It's become kind of an important social and political issue now, and it's an important thing about English-speaking cultures, American, British culture, Western culture, that you have to understand. These things have gotten a lot of attention lately because of how they are affecting the news cycle, politics, especially American and British politics. And it's become an important part of our culture, sadly. It's always been a problem, but even more so recently because social media just spreads these misconceptions and rumors and conspiracy theories like a virus. It's become a pandemic. Misinformation, misconceptions, and hoaxes have become a pandemic now in our society, in the world. It's not just English-speaking culture, but it's affecting the world culture. And it's a problem when, for example, politicians make use of these popular misconceptions to appeal to people, when people vote because they are misled by these kinds of misconceptions. So for this unit, you're going to pick one. There's a wide variety, there's a huge buffet of misconceptions out there that you can choose from. I want you to pick one for the final presentation in this class. It's there's a list on the website. I'll put a link on the website, the class website, either directly on the website or a link to it, another page on the misconceptions unit. And there's a wide variety of topics you can choose from. There are things like urban legends and myths and false beliefs. Korea, the US, maybe some other country that you know of. There are stereotypes that Koreans have about others, that others have about Koreans, that someone has about someone else. These could be, of course, we're not talking about like everybody in the US has these stereotypes about Koreans or Chinese, but a certain segment of the population, and especially maybe those who are causing some controversy right now, may have these misperceptions or stereotypes. It could be misconceptions that some Koreans have about foreigners here in Korea, that some people in the US have about Koreans in Korea, between Korea and Japan, anything. It could be racial stereotypes, cultural, could be minorities, blacks in America, Latinos, Hispanics, gays, lesbians, any kind of group that is stereotyped, misunderstood. For any of these topics, of course, it's important that you choose one that has some social value or importance. If you're going to pick an urban legend or myth, okay, pick something that is important. There are all kinds of minor ones. When I was young, it was a common belief among school children in the US that if you swallow chewing gum, it stays in your stomach for 7 years. Total nonsense, okay, but people believed it. That one itself is not really interesting or harmful, but there are other health myths that are maybe more important, that have an impact upon society, upon decisions that people make regarding their health, buying decisions, life choices, and things like that. So you're going to want to pick a topic that has some importance or relevance. Conspiracy theories, we're going to talk about conspiracy theories this week. Aliens, UFOs, we'll talk about some examples. Pop psychology beliefs, wrong beliefs about psychology, history, science, pseudoscience, pseudoscientific beliefs, teachings, ideologies, pseudoscience being used to promote a particular product or a particular belief system, denying evolution denial, creationism, that's a pseudoscience or denial of real science. Climate change denial, those who don't believe in climate change or human-caused climate change, that's a pseudoscience, for example, or a wrong belief. And these lead to wrong decisions, comes to decisions about what to teach our kids, or voting decisions or buying decisions. These are wrong beliefs that affect people's lives, maybe their health, maybe the good of society, the health of society and the health of the world and the environment. So in terms of the upcoming assignments, well, let's talk about what we've got planned. You are going to choose a topic, and I will have you do a couple of kind of short preparatory assignments preparing for the final. So probably I'll have you do one pretty soon, in which you record yourself talking for about a minute, 1 or 2 minutes, to just tell me about a topic that you're interested in, and you'll upload it to the LMS. So these are going to be minor 10-point assignments. So the first one, I'm just going to ask you what kind of topic you're interested in. There will probably be another follow-up assignment, 1 or 2 follow-ups, in which I will ask you to say more about your topic. Each of these will be a 10-point assignment where you record yourself, video or audio, for about 10 minutes, for about 1 or 2 minutes, and upload it in the LMS. And then the last week of June, that will be the final. You're going to have a major presentation, and I'll decide on the time limits. We're talking probably about at least 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. Record your presentation about one of these misconceptions. So analyzing it, some parts are pretty well known. I'm pretty familiar with the basics of what a conspiracy theory is, and I know about the Illuminati. I know about all the basic misconceptions. But more informative details, but especially why do people believe in it? What's the appeal? What's wrong with it? Why is it unhealthy? Why is this a social problem? And maybe at least one idea about what we could do about it. What's something we could do to improve the situation? Preventing people from falling into it, or educating the public about this topic or this problem. So that's going to be your final. So a few short 10-point assignments in the LMS, and then a final presentation to be uploaded to the LMS. Okay, let's do a little review of what we've discussed so far and some follow-up on that. We've talked about information and problems that some basic issues of information and misinformation. So urban legends, it's kind of a popular story, and myths, these often go together. In the past, some of my students have talked about in their projects, the Korean fan death myth, the myth that going to sleep with a fan on can kill you, and things like that. Popular rumors, certain rumor that somebody important has died when they haven't. Okay, maybe that one is not so social important. Here's a more interesting and bizarre example. There was a famous rock singer named Elvis Presley. He was popular in the 50s to 70s. Late 70s, he died of a drug overdose. And after that, there were rumors that he faked his death and he was actually still alive, because some people happened to see him. Somebody said, I saw Elvis at a gas station in Ohio, or I saw Elvis at a grocery store in Georgia, or something like that. So supposed Elvis sightings of a star who's actually dead. And that's an example of a popular rumor. It leads to an urban legend or a myth that he faked his death and he's really alive. He was trying to escape, from all the limelight. He wanted to have a private life. So I guess he faked his death, made it look like he died, so he could kind of escape and start a new life as an anonymous citizen. Perhaps you know of some kind of an urban legend like that, especially when it's maybe more socially significant. Pseudoscience examples, we'll actually touch on pseudoscience again later, but something that pretends to be science or science-like, it often uses scientific vocabulary, but in the wrong way. It shows a simple or superficial understanding or misunderstanding of science. It pretends to use scientific methods, but it doesn't. People who do pseudoscience, they try to pretend that they understand science or even maybe do science, but they don't really follow proper scientific methods in research. Uh, for example, proper hypothesis testing and replication. You do repeated studies in order to prove a hypothesis. And it takes a large body of research to prove a theory, to accept a theory as true. And even misunderstanding what a theory is sometimes commonplace. They misuse science vocabulary, maybe selling you a product that doesn't really work. Germanium bracelets or copper bracelets supposedly has great magical health benefits, and they use some pseudoscientific vocabulary and language to make it sound impressive, but they don't know what they are talking about. And even astrology might fall into that category, because sometimes astrology advocates will try to put together some story about how the planets and stars influence us, although they don't have any scientific explanation and no scientific evidence. But they'll try to put together some kind of mystical explanation, or, well, you can't prove it, so I'm going to believe it. You can't prove it's not true. That's not how science works. You don't assert something and say, oh, you can't prove it, therefore it's valid, or at least for me. No. If you claim something works or this causes that, you have to prove it. You can't shift the burden of proof to someone else and say, oh, disprove it. No, science is about proving things, not disproving claims that have no evidence. If you make a claim that has no evidence, it's not up to me to disprove it. It's up to the person making the claim to prove it. That's how science works. Alternative medicine is kind of pseudoscience-y, and there's like psychic healing, psychic surgery, homeopathy. I sent you a video link to that, homeopathy. That's outright quack medicine. And I also mentioned some things that are kind of more complicated. I think Oriental medicine is complicated because there certainly is research showing validity of some of it. I don't know about all of it, but acupuncture, for example, causes release of brain chemicals that can be helpful for managing pain and for dealing with muscle problems, for example. Hanyak, Boyak, I don't know about that, but I'm sure there's something to it. Certainly, some of those are probably good, but I don't know the research. I haven't looked into it. You're welcome to do that for me. So I'm not going to classify Oriental medicine under alternative medicine, although probably some of it belongs there. If a quack acupuncturist is using magnets, that's quackery. Magnets don't affect your body. They're too weak. So there's probably some validity to some of it. There certainly is some validity to some of it. I know some of it has been tested medically. I just don't know which parts have. I don't know enough about Oriental or Chinese medicine to say. But feel free to pick that as a topic and enlighten me. I'd love to learn more. Which parts are good and which parts are kind of not so good. As I know, last year, one of my students did do a presentation on this, and I guess criticized part of it, some of it, but only part of it scientifically. Then we talked about pareidolia. So pareidolia is finding patterns that are not there. Finding patterns in visual information or auditory information that's not really there. You hear things that aren't there. You see things that are not there. You see patterns in clouds that are not really there. And there's a good reason why humans would do that. Why would we have cognitive biases and also things like pareidolia? And there's a There's another similar phenomenon which we're going to talk about soon, similar to pareidolia. Well, it goes back to our evolutionary past. If you think about being a human on the savanna of Africa 50,000 years ago, okay, let's say you're out hunting and there's some bushes over there and hear them rustling. Something's moving the bushes or moving in the bushes. What is it? It could be the wind blowing, or it could be a tiger in there. Now, if you guess it's a tiger, you raise your spear, your weapon, and you get ready to fight it, or you run to safety. Okay, if it turns out to be just the wind, no harm done. You're still alive, you're fine, no problem. If you suspect tiger, and it is a tiger, you prepare yourself, you're ready. You're ready to fight it, you're ready to run to safety, and at the end of the day, you're still alive. But if you guess, oh, it's just the wind, and if it's the wind, okay, fine. But if you guess it's just the wind, but it's a tiger, guess what? You're tiger meat, you're tiger's lunch. You're going to feed a family of tigers for the next couple of days. Congratulations. So those cognitive biases, and including the tendency to pareidolia, for example, started to function a long time ago for our survival. But today in our complex society, they can cause us problems. They can be misled, causing us to be tricked. And that's part of the reason for these misconceptions. We mentioned backward masking in rock music, and I will provide a link to a video that demonstrates that. Let's talk about superstitions and pseudoscience. So superstitions might be astrology and things like that, for example, that pretend to give you advice or predict your future. And pseudoscience and maybe quack medicine, alternative medicine, pseudoscience remedies for health problems, for personal problems. Okay, why do these seem to work? For people who believe in them, why do they seem to work? I want you to discuss this for a while. Discuss this. Why do these things seem to work for those who believe in them? So why do these seem to work? Well, one, confirmation and selection biases. You believe in something and you want to believe in it, like astrology or some sort of fortune telling. You will look for something that confirms your belief in it. You will look for things that confirm your belief. And similar to that is the selection bias. You will notice things that fit with the claims, and you will not notice things that don't fit. You will notice things that fit your horoscope and not notice things that do not fit or even contradict the horoscope reading. So we're good at that in all areas of life, whether it's politics, religion, astrology, pseudoscience, beliefs, whatever. And of course, when it comes to remedies, there's the placebo effect. If you believe something is going to make you feel better, you will tend to feel better. That's a real effect in medicine. Placebo is from the Latin word meaning I will please. So because you believe in something that helps you, you're going to feel better. It's like mind over matter, and it's a real medical effect. Whenever a new drug is being tested, they test one group, placebo patients who get just a placebo, and the other group gets the real drug. And they do this because there's going to be a real placebo effect in the placebo group. Some of them will get better, at least somewhat better, because they believe in it. The brain really affects the body and the health. It's not fully understood why this works, how the brain can affect the body like this. We don't fully understand it, but it works. There's the nocebo effect, which is the opposite or the converse. Actually, it's Latin for I will harm. If you think something is going to harm you, you will feel worse. A great example is MSG. That is a chemical additive in some foods. It's like a salt substitute. Chinese food has a reputation for having MSG, and I have known some people, even a Chinese person, who said she doesn't like MSG. She claimed it made her sick. And after eating at a restaurant, she said, "Oh, I feel not as good because of the MSG." Some people even think it causes cancer, and it doesn't. There was one bad study a long, long time ago in the 1950s that made a connection between MSG and cancer, but it was a bad study. The research shows there's no practical um, cancer-causing effect of MSG unless you just consume huge, huge quantities of it. And it doesn't really make you sick. I mean, plenty of health research shows it doesn't make people sick or make them feel bad. But if a person thinks that the Chinese food had MSG in it and they think that MSG makes them sick, they can feel sick or feel worse. Nocebo effect. And these go along with something kind of similar, and it's not fully understood either. Psychogenic, psychosomatic factors. Um, so this refers to how the brain can affect your body, can create illness, or can contribute to a physical illness. So if it completely creates an illness, it can be psychogenic, or sometimes it just might be making an illness worse, and illnesses are already there, which is kind of more psychosomatic, psycho mind, somatic, soma meaning body. So there's a whole area of medicine devoted to this. We know it's a real thing. Um, Stress and anxiety can really cause physical illness. The brain takes out the stress on the body and exaggerates an illness or creates an illness um, out of nothing due to stress or anxiety. Uh, and like just as the brain can make you sick, the brain can sometimes make you feel better. If it's like a real emotional experience or a faith healing experience, or um, uh, due to a placebo effect, the brain can generate healing. And there's not as much research on this, and I don't think it's as well understood, but there is a real psychogenic effect where the brain can bring about some kind of healing, physical or emotional healing, or feeling better just by itself. Something causes you to feel a lot better about yourself, and you get better physically, or you have some kind of great emotional ecstatic experience and you feel better physically, you get healed of something. That's a real psychological effect. Okay, next I asked, kind of before, I asked you to talk about conspiracy theories, and I'm going to ask you to kind of pause the video and discuss again. What are conspiracy theories? What are some examples you know of? Uh, how do they get started, and why do people believe in them? Why do people believe in these? And do you think there's any connection between that, why people believe in them, and these things we've just talked about? What do you think? Talk about this for a while.